Good morning. I am Ashley Fritchie, and I am going to do a session today called Old Class, New Ideas. It's going to be some tips for you to use and some documents for you to use when you teach digital literacy. So I know that some of you may be new teachers, some of you may have been teaching for several years, but you're just looking for some new ideas. So hopefully I'll be able to help all of you. So, a little bit about me. I teach at Callaway County High School, which is in far west Kentucky. This is my 12th year teaching, so I'm starting my 12th year. I have had digital literacy every year that I have been teaching, and I am in no way a expert on this topic, but I am more than happy to share the things that I have, and hopefully you can get some use out of it. So if we were in person, I would obviously ask you these things and we would have a conversation about it. So I'm hoping that maybe some of you are new teachers, some of you are teachers who have been teaching for several years. I think there's probably a vast array of people watching this, but hopefully you'll each get something useful out of this session. So at Callaway County High School, we offer actually three pathways. So we have administrative support and accounting, which are our two biggest. And then last year, 2 years ago, we implemented an e-commerce pathway. So administrative support and accounting, you can see them on your screen. So the required classes that we require for administrative support are digital literacy, accounting and finance foundations, the Microsoft Office Specialist Certification class, and an advanced office administration. For accounting, the only difference is that you take financial accounting and then you either take just advanced office or Microsoft. They both have digital literacy and accounting and finance foundations that are the same. For e-commerce, you also have to take digital literacy, and then you have to have accounting, and then you have to also have the sorry, I lost my train of thought, the principles of marketing and advanced marketing. So every pathway that we offer includes digital literacy. So we all teach it. We're a two-person department. Each of us both teach a digital literacy class. So for us, it is not a mandatory class at Callaway County High School. I know that some schools require this class to be taken by all of their students. We do not. We use it as a feeder program. So it helps to feed all of our career pathways, the accounting pathway, administrative support, and e-commerce. We have from 9th to 12th grade in class. It's primarily ninth graders, but you get the occasional sophomore that couldn't get into it when they were a freshman, or you might get a senior who just needed one more elective, so they take the class as well. So we teach far more than just keyboarding. It varies. We'll teach some soft skills, we'll teach job interview skills, but it's a lot more than just learning how to type. So this is a typical plan for a pacing for a block schedule. So our school is on a mixed block or a modified block schedule. So we have 2 periods, then 2 blocks, and then 2 periods to end the day. But this is how I pace it out for a block schedule. So we spend about 5 weeks on just basic keyboarding. We use a program called Microtype for that. However, it's not going to be compatible with our computers any longer, so we're going to have to be looking for something different. So if you use something that you love, I would love for you to email that to me just so I can get some different ideas for some online software. If you were on a year-long schedule, I would say you would probably spend 8 to 10 weeks on keyboarding, but we spend 5 in a block. Within those 5 weeks, you do some other stuff to make the class fun, because you can't just spend 90 minutes a day typing lines out of the book. That's not very exciting for the students. So I'll show you some things that we do those first 5 weeks to make it a little more interesting. Then we spend approximately 4 weeks on email and memo, like how to write emails and how to write memos. We also do a midterm exam, and then we spend the last half of the semester, we spend about 3 weeks on letter formatting, 1 week apiece on tables and reports, and then we spend in between 2 to 3 weeks on Excel and 2 to 3 weeks on PowerPoint, and then we have a final exam. So that's kind of how our semester is laid out. So those first 5 weeks, I told you to do some things that make it fun. So I use a website called NitroType. I'll be honest, the boys seem to like it more than the girls sometimes. But basically, they get to create an account. They can add you as a friend. You can race each other. I do like class competitions. So I'll group people based on their speed, and we will have like a little in class competition. So they just have to sign up, and then you sign up as well. You give them your name, or your handle, so they can add you as a friend. It's very easy to use. It's also something good they can just do to practice typing as they finish the assignments in class. So NitroType is a very good resource. The kids seem to enjoy it. They're practicing typing and they don't even really know it. Everfi is a website that we use as well. So Everfi is something that if you haven't checked into, it's definitely worth it. So it's free for educators. They have a couple of different things at the high school level that you can use. So they have some on just like being healthy, alcohol and drugs. They have lessons on financial literacy, which I use in my accounting class. And then they have lessons on like how to live a digital life. And so that's the one I use in digital literacy. So it teaches them how to be a good digital citizen. What I do with it, I assign it the first like probably 4 to 5 days of school, and I give them a deadline. So it's typically like Labor Day or fall break. This year it could change some. And I just tell them, but between now and whatever the deadline is, anytime they have free time in class, they can work on it. If they need to work on it at home, they can. But when they're finished, they're finished, and then I can see their scores. So it's something that you should look into. Again, it's free. It's a really good program. We also use Business 101 pages. So I'll show you what these look like. They are, and you'll have access to these on a Google Drive. So the Business 101 pages all look uniform, and there's even a template on here so you can make your own. But they are dealing with things that we feel like kids need to know. So there's one about state abbreviations. This one is about proofreader marks, and they have to write down the proofreader marks and then proofread a paragraph at the bottom. We have them about job interviews, about customer service. So we try to incorporate these things just so that the kids will have access to that and they can see it and hopefully learn something within those first 5 weeks, again, other than just typing over and over again. I'm sorry. So the Business 101 pages you will have access to on the Google Drive that I will share whenever you email me towards the end. We also do some stuff with business math. So we have some worksheets about business math that we have kids work on. And then we talk about capitalization and number rules and just some general vocab. So we do business vocab. We also teach some ACT vocab that our school wants us to incorporate. So all of this stuff is just embedded in those first 5 weeks. So we try to, again, make it fun, and they're not just constantly typing for 90 minutes straight. So after we have covered that and they've taken their keyboard test and we're ready to move on, we go into emails and memos. So we try to use examples from outside of the book. You obviously use things in the book, but then we try to use things outside of the book to make it real. So I have them, one of my assignments that you'll have access to, I have them pick a school rule that they would like to see changed, and then they email our student council faculty representative, and they try to convince them why that rule should be changed. We also have something where we email a site-based council member asking for a change the students want to see that site-based would handle. In addition, I have them pick a teacher, like their favorite teacher from elementary school, middle school, or high school, and they write them an email thanking them for their impact in their life. So I try to do things that are outside of the textbook as well to make it a little more real world applicable. I'll have them email other teachers and just CC or BCC me so that they're having to communicate with someone other than just myself. I think that gives them really good practice. If they email their English teacher, hopefully they're going to be a little more concerned about their grammar and punctuation. So I try to have them do things like that take it out of the book. So we're not just constantly doing things from the textbook. Because as you know, textbooks are great, but sometimes they're really outdated. and they don't really apply to the kids. After emails and memos, we move on to letters. So again, keeping it real, doing things outside of the textbook. I actually let them send a couple of these. So I have them write a letter to a chamber of commerce, and they have to send that letter off and request information back. So in the past, I've had a student send their letter to Nashville, and they got 2 free tickets to go to a concert at the Grand Ole Opry one night. So, just having them send things to people who aren't myself, I think they put a little bit more effort into making sure they're, grammatically correct and they don't make themselves or our school look poorly. So I actually let them send a few. We send the Chamber of Commerce letter, and then they can also write to a college, and they can send that letter as well if they want to. And I'll show you some of the sample assignments in a minute, but you'll have access to everything. After letters, we move on to tables. So same thing, keep it real, try to do things outside of the book. We obviously do a few that are in the book initially just to learn them, but I really only spend about a week on this. So I have them research careers and make a pros and cons list using a table of careers they're interested in. I have them look up salaries for 10 different careers in different cities, or just one career in 10 different cities to compare, how much you make living in Los Angeles compared to living in Murray, Kentucky. So I have them do things like that that make it a little more real world for them, and I'll show you some of those examples in a minute. Reports are probably the kids' least favorite, and honestly, probably mine too, just because there's a lot of formatting, it's a lot to read. So the one thing that I do with this, we'll do a few out of the book, and then I have them pick a topic that they're interested in. So they pick a person, or they pick a famous city, and they'll research either of those two things and write a report about that. So they're learning how to save their references, how to then format their references into correct style. So they're learning all of that, but still it's researching a topic that they're interested in. So they have a little bit more ownership in that. We go into Excel next. I'm sorry, let me back up. It's not on here, but I'm going to show you in a minute. We do have a job simulation that we do after we're finished with reports. We do something that we call TCU, or Twin Cities University. So it's basically 13 different jobs that they have to complete. So for 3 days in a block, or 6 periods if we're on a period day, they go to work. So I am their boss. They can't ask me questions. They're supposed to already know how to do all of this. It's sort of like their final assessment over everything that we've spent the last, 10 plus weeks on. So they love it. They think that it's really fun to, just to pretend and they can't call me Miss Ritchie. I won't answer if they do. So we have a lot of fun with that. And that's something that we do before we start Excel. So with Excel, I don't really get too in depth, excuse me, with it, just because if they take the mouse class, they're going to get far more into it. We do if statements, but that's about as advanced as we get. So Excel is something that most of them have never seen before. So they're mesmerized just by the fact that you can put 10 in one cell and 20 in the next. And then if you copy it, if you copy it'll pick up on your formatting, and it's going to know to do 30, 40, 50, 60 after it. So they're amazed by simple things. You don't have to get too in depth, and they're pretty impressed by the fact that it can add and subtract and multiply and divide for them. So we do just a few weeks with different things for Excel, and I have some sample assignments that you'll have access to here in a minute as well that you can get from me. But again, we don't go real deep into Excel. If statements are about as hard as we get whenever we cover Excel. Sorry. The next thing that we do is PowerPoint. So most of these students already know how to use PowerPoint. They have grown up with it. They used it in elementary school. So I try to show them things that are not as common. So we do, of course, talk about how you shouldn't have paragraphs of information. So we talk about the 4x4 to 6x6 rule. No more than 6 bullets per slide, no more than 6 words per bullet. because they don't necessarily see that modeled in every classroom they're in, so they think that you're supposed to have complete paragraphs on a slide. I show them how to do hyperlinks. So if you're hyperlinking something, I show them how to make it just say a word or a phrase instead of having the whole, big long URL. And then I try to show them like how to trim videos and add audio, just things that they're not quite as familiar with. And then I allow them, they do 2 presentations for me. So the first one is an all about them presentation where they just do a whole PowerPoint about themselves, and then they get up in front of the class and present it. And then the other one that I have them do, they can pick a vacation destination, and like the information they get back from their Chamber of Commerce, they could use to help make this PowerPoint. So they make a PowerPoint about a vacation destination and, just talk about it and then present on it. And there are topics that they have to cover, and it's all on like the assignment page that I'll show you in just a second. So after PowerPoint, we're pretty much done and we do our final exam. So that's kind of how I pace it out. Again, I'm not an expert on this, and you all probably have far better ideas than I do, so I would love for you to share them with me. Usually, if we're in person, we talk about that stuff right now, and we all just sort of collaborate and learn from each other, and that's, I think, the part I'm going to miss the most about not having a traditional summer conference, but hopefully next year that'll happen. So if you have anything that you think would be helpful for me to share, just send it to me and I can put it on the Google folder that I'll send out, and then you can, have access, like people can have access to that as well, and I'll make sure you get credit for that. If you want the files, so if you want me to share these files with you that I'm about to show you, this is my email address on the screen. So take a screenshot of it, write it down, whatever you need to do. Just send me an email and I will send you the link. In the past, when I've done this, I have had all sorts of things happen. So almost every year it's somehow gotten deleted. Somebody who doesn't really know how to use Google Docs or like just Google programs will somehow accidentally delete everything. So I'm going to try to set it up in a way this year that can't happen, because it's really frustrating. You'll email me and ask me for things and they're not there anymore. So I have to go through and set them all up. So hopefully we'll get that taken care of this year and it won't be a problem. So let me show you the files that you're going to have access to. So I told you that, the first 5 weeks we do some different stuff. So I showed you the business 101 pages. There's going to be a folder that has a couple of different like math assignments. So we talk about overtime pay or how to calculate sales prices. Like kids have no idea how to find 20% off of something. So we do worksheets on that. So we also go over number and capitalization rules. So there's a couple of assignments for that. And then we talk about proofreading. So I'll show you one of these. I have set up these correct the paragraph assignments. So they have to learn how to proofread. And obviously on my board, I have my proofreading marks turned off so they can't like see the squiggly lines. But this top paragraph is correct. The bottom one they have to fix. And I don't always tell them how many mistakes are in it. For the first couple, it will say like 15 mistakes or 20 mistakes. But this one just gives them a range. And they have to learn how to problem solve. So they have to learn if they only have 8, well, there's more than 8, so they should keep looking. If they find 21, then either their teacher can't count or they have marked something that wasn't actually incorrect. So we just talk about that, and they enjoy doing these. And then sometimes we'll go over them together, like as a class on the smart board. I'll have this pulled up and we go to the board and draw on it. Other times I just have them trade papers or they'll turn them in for an actual grade. It just kind of varies. So I have some proofreading pages for you that you can look at. And then I've also included in this folder, like this is the keyboard that I have them take their test on. So it's blank and they just have to fill it in. So we do a pre-test, like the first couple of days of school, I give them this and make them try to fill it out. And I always tell them I'm going to love it if they fail, because then I can actually feel like I can teach them something for the first 5 weeks. And I have listed everything they should be able to write down. So then they get this same piece of paper towards the end of the 5 weeks, and that's their post test. So they can kind of compare and see how much more they know now. I've also given you an example of the syllabus that I use, and again, you may already have one, and that's perfect. You do not have to use mine, but if you want it to have a starting point, you can. And then this is the paper that we give them to start EverFi. So it shows them the website. It shows them where to go. You would have your own class code because you would have to create your own account. So whatever your class code is would go there. It basically tells them what to do. It has a spot for them to write down their username and their password because they tend to lose those things or forget them quite often. Again, I use it in accounting, so this is an old one that still has accounting listed there. And then it tells them what to do. And then the deadline for this one was November the 1st, but you can, change that and make it whatever you want it to be. They will need headphones for this, so if you don't have them in your classroom, just make sure they know to possibly bring some so that they can work on it as they have time in class, if you choose to use it. Then you'll have access to these other folders as well. So we'll just kind of go in order. So we start with, after we do the first 5 weeks, we start with memos. So this is just several different examples of email memos that I have my kids send. Eventually, before the test, we'll do a few pages where it's an email and a regular memo because they tend to get the two confused. So we'll do them both like at the same time just to practice both of them. But this example is like the one where I have them send to a faculty member that is on our student council about a rule that they want to see changed. And again, you can change or use anything that you want. After memos, we do letters. So in the letter folder, you're just going to see some examples of different letters that we do. So I told you that we write to a chamber of commerce and to a college. Here are examples of those assignments so that you can pick out, you could modify this and do whatever you wanted to do, but these are just my rules, what I expect, so they can look at that. I also have them do a letter to self, which they don't get to open until their graduation. So the night of their graduation at Project Grad, they get to open letters. And so I'll put their letter to self in there. So here is the rubric for that. And then I had them do one during the pandemic this year, just their thoughts and feelings and how their life had changed. And I got a lot of good feedback. They seemed to enjoy doing that. Like it was kind of therapeutic to get to write about it, I guess. So they seem to like it. So this talks about their letter to self and what they should include in it. So you'll have access to that if you want it. After letters, we do tables. So this folder will just have different examples of tables that I do. So I've had them do one before that's 20 questions where they have to answer 20 questions about themselves. Kind of helps me get to know a little bit more about them as well. And it's opening up, but it'll like say, what's your nickname? And then it tells them what to do on this side. So they have to bold whatever they write there. How old are you? Change the font size to your answer. So if you're 15, make your font size 15. And there are just different questions, and then they have to do whatever it says over here. So they're learning some other things that Word can do. So doing drop caps, or most of them know how to change the font and the color, but maybe italicize if they're not sure how to do that, or doing bullets and custom bullets. And then there are just some other examples of things that I've used in the past. I let them do one that's about like a music artist. So they have to pick, I think it's 15 music artists, and they have to like research and find their birthday. And then they have to pick out their favorite song, their hometown and their favorite song. So this is, just a neat little thing that, again, makes them practice what you're wanting them to learn, but they're doing it about something they're interested in. So makes them appreciate it just a little bit more. After tables, that's when we do the job simulation, and you'll have access to that. So it's just 13 different jobs they have to complete over the course of those 3 days if you're on a block schedule, or 6 days if you're on a period schedule. And again, it's a letter, or it's a couple of letters, a memo, an email. There's a report in there. There's some tables. There's a flyer that they have to make. So just different things that, again, they've already learned in the first 10 plus weeks of class. And so now they're applying it. After that, we do Excel. So this folder will have different assignments that I have used for Excel. So you can have access to those. And then the last thing that we do is PowerPoint. So this folder will have you'll have access to some of the different PowerPoint assignments that I have given in the past, and also some examples of PowerPoints that kids have given to me. So like the All About Me, this is sort of the rubric for what they need to include on it. So it's going to show them like what all they can include, what the requirements are. So they have to have at least 10 slides. They have to have a template and like a design for their presentation. I encourage them not to use clip art. They should use real pictures, and then I show them how to crop those pictures or remove the background or whatever they need to do. And then these are the things that they can include. And then here's like the grading sheet. So I actually let somebody in the class grade them. And then I look at them before I put them in the grade book, and I might make some changes if I need to, but I allow them to, like their peers, to grade them. So that's the All About Me. And all of the others are here as well that you can use, and just different assignments that I do within PowerPoint. So you'll have access to all of that. Hopefully it's helpful. Again, if you have any questions, my email address, I'll put it back up here just so you can see it. But there's my email address. Please send me a message. I'm more than happy to help you if there's anything that you would like for me to share. Just send me an email so that I can send you the link to be able to access all of these files. And if you have anything that you would like for me to put on there to share, I'm more than happy to do that. So you can also send me that as well. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. I know this was a little short. It would last a lot longer if we were in person and we can talk and have an open communication. But again, if you need anything, just send me a message and I'm happy to help. I hope that you guys have a great school year. I know things are going to be very different, but I hope that you have a good school year and try to make the best out of it. And hopefully we'll see you next summer. Bye.